Hello all. How are you, Sam? Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, no, he's still got it. He knows one camera. He knows one camera when he sees it. Testing 1, 2. David Crisafulli, joined by Ros Bates. Testing 1, 2, 3. The Queensland health crisis is real, and new data shows just how much it's impacting the lives of Queenslanders. And the government may wish to brush over this, but we will not. And we will continue to work to make sure that we put forward solutions to heal what is one of the biggest issues facing our state. New data shows that 59,307 Queenslanders are waiting for elective surgery. Equally troubling, 284,546 Queenslanders are waiting just to get on that waiting list. Now, that number is troubling. That's a rise of 12,000 Queenslanders waiting, just trying to get on a list to one day be able to have surgery. That has risen by 12,000 in the last quarter alone. The number of elective surgeries are now at the highest level we have ever seen it. And it is most troubling to know that that figure has gone from those who are waiting longer than they should from 10% to 22%. We're reaching the stage where nearly 1 in 4 Queenslanders aren't being seen on time to have the surgery they desperately need, let alone the nearly 300,000 who can't even get an appointment. And in a moment, Ros is going to explain why that is so important for people to be seen. But make no mistake, more Queenslanders are waiting longer than ever for life-altering surgery. Surgery that means the difference between life and death. And we will continue to put forward solutions that we've garnered as we've gone around the state. In the next couple of weeks, Ros and I will do our 30th Queensland Town Hall crisis meeting. And in it, we've heard the pleas of desperate Queenslanders who just want to know that they can have a system they rely on. And from it, we've spoken about things like sharing data in real time, better resources, better triaging, and above all, putting local doctors and nurses back in charge. We will continue to listen, we'll continue to shine a light on what is a major challenge. And the state government is failing to grasp how big this situation is, and they're failing to listen to the solutions that are before them. Good morning, Ros.
Thank you. Ros Bates, Shadow Minister for Health and Ambulance Services and Registered Nurse. Well, Queensland Health is in crisis, and it is in crisis because the Palaszczuk Labor government has failed to properly resource and run our hospital system. Queensland Health is on red alert, and Hollywood Anna is still on the red carpet. These latest figures for patients in Queensland waiting to have elective surgery are appalling. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. This is your child waiting to have their tonsils out. This is your wife waiting to have a breast biopsy to see whether or not she has breast cancer. Or it's your nana who's waiting to have her hip surgery and waiting in pain for much longer than she should be. On top of that, there are patients who are waiting to see a specialist. That's the waiting list for the waiting list. That's your dad not seeing his cardiologist on time. That can lead to fatal consequences. That is your grandmother going blind waiting to see an ophthalmologist. It is not good enough, and under the Palaszczuk Labor government, these numbers are exploding. And Anastasia Palaszczuk is on the red carpet while Queensland Health is on red alert.
Over to you.
Nobody maybe these headlines about this party. Do you think it's a taxpayer money? And the government says it's a tradition. And the government always says it's a party. What's your take?
Look, Tim, you know my style, and it's to comment on the things that Queenslanders are talking to me about. Economy, service delivery, integrity are the three things that I've consistently stood up every day and spoken about. And in the time I get to talk to Queenslanders, I want them to know my focus is on them. listening to them and governing for them. Now, the Premier can set her own social agenda. I'll set mine. But I want to talk about the things that will make a better Queensland, and I won't deviate from that.
Would you continue on holding Crisafulli if you were elected?
I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay talking about the things that matter to people. Priorities matter in government, and priorities matter when you're trying to be an alternate premier. And I think people know the things that I'm serious about fixing, and my focus is on restoring services to this state, making sure there's an economy built on the back of small and family business, and restoring trust in a government again. And the way to do that is to conduct yourself the same way in government as you do in opposition, and that'll be my commitment.
We've seen the youth crime laws go before a parliamentary committee today. Do you think there has been enough consultation on this, or would you have liked to see them pushed through immediately? And I know you'll talk about how there's been mixed messages from the government. What I'm interested in is actually what you think should have actually happened with these laws going to the committee phase, or would you have been happy to see them just pushed through?
We should have been in that building back at work 6 weeks ago, when Queensland was in the grips of months of madness after Christmas. Honest, law-abiding Queenslanders losing their lives, record numbers of cars and homes being broken into and stolen, and every day I stood in front of you and pleaded with the Premier to recall Parliament. Every day from early January. So, of course there should be consultation on laws, but we should have went back to work when the rest of Queensland went back to work, and we wouldn't be having this discussion. So now you're going to have people who are desperately trying to have their say. They haven't been listened to. 300 people walked into a hall and the Premier of the state didn't have the decency to front up and listen to them. We have been throughout the state, and this isn't a newfound interest of mine. This is something I have been speaking about for years, and I'm sorry, but the committee process could have done its job a month and a half ago.
Obviously that didn't happen though, and that was clear that it wasn't going to happen. The government sort of had that clear. What do you think about the process now? Is it too rushed? Are you happy with it?
Well, I'm not going to stand in the way of anything that can improve the lives of Queenslanders. I would like to see the government conduct itself as maturely, and if they would have listened at that time, these laws would be law by now. But I'm going to make a point, and that is, finally, after 2 years of telling us that breach of bail couldn't occur, the government adopted our policy down to the last letter. That isn't the end of the road. There are still so many more things that Queenslanders want to see. And one of those is making sure that detention is no longer a last resort, but the other is about early intervention. And I'm passionate about that, and I'm not convinced that we're doing enough in that space at the moment. And I would like to see the Auditor-General do a forensic look on what we are spending money on at the moment, and let's work to find ways of turning young kids around before they put their knife in their hand. And some of the scenes that we've seen, to see knife crime become so normalised, it just sends a shiver up your spine. It's becoming business as usual in Queensland for these young thugs to be carrying knives. And you know, there are all manner of positive suggestions being put forward by Queenslanders about how to deal with this, but the number one is to fix the broken youth justice system. Make consequences for action and turn kids around before they get the knife in their hand. That's where the focus needs to be. And right now, this is an epidemic the likes of which Queensland hasn't seen before. And I spent most of yesterday in a park listening to people in my own electorate. And when I arrived there, I heard about a home invasion the night before, and upon getting home, I heard about a car that was stolen not 2 kilometres from where I was standing, and then didn't end until it got done with police spikes a couple of hours later. This is just one little snapshot of one community. This is a youth crime epidemic that is spiralling out of control, and the government seems to be wanting to manage it via media. They're missing the point. People want their safety back. They want the state that they love back, and they want to know that there are consequences for bad behaviour, particularly young kids carrying knives.
Do you think there's any scope to toughen the laws about who or where you can purchase knives?
I saw those comments and I was asked yesterday, and my response to that is I'll never shut the door on any Queenslander who puts forward a positive suggestion. And I've stood with the Beasleys and I've stood with the Beaumonts, and I know how passionate they are. So I will always listen to any solution that comes forward. But whilst we must remain open-minded for every positive solution, ultimately fixing the Youth Justice Act, making consequences for action, turning around bad behaviour before it starts, is the greatest gift we can give to heal the youth crime epidemic. That is the greatest thing. So we should look at everything. But if you fix the Act, that's the biggest and single most important thing that a government should be doing to keep its citizens safe.
What else, do you have any other ideas on what could be done to curb crime? Like what are some of the other consequences and actions
But
involved in the Act?
both ends of the spectrum, and we are failing at both ends of the spectrum. And I talk about early intervention, and over the course of the next 18 months, I am going to be out in the community asking people for their feedback. I went to an excellent school the other day that's helping turn around young troubled teens before they get to that stage. I want to go out and see what is working and what's not, and I'm serious about that. But having watered down the laws 8 years ago, having resisted our calls to strengthen them for the last several years, we now have a generation of repeat hardcore offenders that the state government has created, and we have to deal with them in the here and now. And surely stronger laws around carrying knives, surely making sure that detention isn't a last resort, surely making sure that consequences for action should be something that's on the table. And I'm not convinced at the moment that the state government understands how much the community is yearning for solutions at both ends of the spectrum. Thank you. See you guys.